In 1987, Sega would release the AM1 developed Shinobi in the arcade. Designed on the Sega System 16 hardware, it's the first in the line of popular side-scrolling platformers that would later bless the Genesis with incredible hits like Revenge of Shinobi and Shinobi 3. The original arcade game has had numerous ports and releases over the years, coming to consoles like the Sega Master System, PC Engine, and Xbox 360. You can even unlock it in the compilation Sonic's Ultimate Genesis Collection. Lucky for us, we now have access to it thanks to Sega Ages, and developer M2 saw fit to make sure this version is the best one yet. The first thing you'll notice when starting up Shinobi is that there are now two versions of the game for you to choose. You have the option of tackling the original untouched arcade version of the game, or have the new Ages mode. Both these options have access to a time reverse option that allows you to rewind in-game gameplay to correct mistakes you may have made. This option does affect your ranking, so if you turn it on, it is noted in your playthrough. The main menu also has the ability to load your save states, an option to see your rankings, as well as a playback feature for your gameplay captures. Tapping X here sends you into the game's options menu, where you can choose the Japanese or international version, difficulty, number of lives, enemy speed, and the option to turn off the stage select entirely. There is also a controller config that allows you to completely change the inputs, as well as a few display options for things like screen size, bezels, and filters. There is also a music player if you want to listen to some of the classic Shinobi goodness. Starting the Ages mode reveals two big differences from the arcade original. First is the color of our ninja hero Joe Musashi himself. Now decked out in white, he looks a little more like the ninja from Shadow Dancer. This change in color isn't just for visual kicks either, as Joe can now take more damage. Upon taking a hit, he turns from white to red, indicating the damage taken. This is basically your cue that one more hit and you're dead. The good news is that this change also is included within your power-ups when you rescue hostages. A red Joe can regain the white suit and get back that extra damage forgiveness. The other big change to this mode is that Joe comes fully powered up now. You get both the large exploding bullets of your ranged attacks, as well as the katana for up-close damage. This means that most enemies will fall in your wake with ease, including both the shielded bad guys and the dreaded jumping ninjas. These additions make the game vastly more accessible to those looking to finish the game for the very first time. For those hardcore arcade guys looking for a more authentic challenge, you only need Fire Up the Arcade mode, a 1-to-1 recreation of the original System 16 version. Here you will get all the challenge of the arcade game, its brutality ceaseless, and its final stage punishing. Like most of these Sega Ages releases, M2 has done a bang-up job with the port here. The visuals are a dead ringer, and it sounds as good as you could have hoped. Shinobi has always been a good-looking and sounding game, and nothing was altered here to change that. For those of you that like smoothing and scanline options, they are here, but I prefer the ultra-sharp pixels myself. Further additions include a rewind feature that allows you to stop the gameplay, take back a section of that gameplay that you may have failed, and try over again without having to reload anything. This is in addition to your typical save state feature that gives you a bunch of slots that you can use at any time. You can turn off that rewind feature entirely for both the arcade and ages mode. The stage select is a brilliant addition that allows you to start on any stage that you have completed. If you have been dogged by that final stage that you can't beat on the arcade mode, just keep practicing it until you do. Great for those looking to try and defeat this with one life or continue. For those wondering if there are any changes to the base game in terms of visual content, I did notice that the Marilyn Monroe-like pictures in Stage 2 were replaced with altered beast portraits. No doubt an attempt to avoid possible infringement on any copyrighted material. Outside of that, this is pretty much the arcade game as perfect as it's ever been. Shinobi was a revelation for me in the arcade. If you've heard me speak on it before, you know it was a game that I loved there, and thought for sure it'd get a port on the Sega Genesis at some point. Sega instead decided to make a few exclusive Shinobi games for its 16-bit hardware, and I can't really complain about any of those, but I still would have loved to have seen this back then. Sega knew how to make challenging and appealing games, and this was one of their best at the time. If I had to recommend a top 5 Sega Ages releases for the Switch, this would definitely be high on that list. If you've been disappointed in stuff like Columns 2 recently, then this is finally something worth supporting. The additions are great, the conversion is top-notch, and there appears to be still more options that I need to unlock. Sega Ages Shinobi is released as of October 31st in Japan, and is available in English for those of you with a Japanese Switch account. It doesn't have a US or European release date yet, but will likely be before the end of the year. I'm Sega Lord X. Thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you next time.